the GT4 International Cup. Cars on the grid, and looking forward to this first 1 hour race. Mandatory pit stops, obligatory driver changes. Everybody is in a 2-driver entry, and GT4, a burgeoning category. And this weekend we have this new event, the International Cup. It is a one-off event. It brings cars from the European Series, it brings them from the French GT Championship, 1 or 2 from the UK, also from North America and from Canada. So it's a truly international lineup, and we are guaranteed, I think, some very interesting racing indeed. David Addison and John Watson trackside. John, these cars are a little slower than GT3 that we were watching yesterday evening. They're perhaps more closely regarded as to what you can buy in a showroom, but great variety on the grid and very close racing.
Yes, indeed it is, and I have to say I quite enjoy the fact that GT4 cars represent actually the product that you can go and get in your local. Looking down on the grid, Mercedes, BMW, now Alpine as well, Porsche, Audi. They are basically the GT3 incarnation that's available from your friendly Porsche, Audi, Mercedes dealer. Mercedes have introduced actually a brand new model, the GT3R, and an upgraded version of that. So that virtually you could take straight from the showroom, put it onto the racetrack, put a set of slicks on it, set of pads that would be a race pad, and off you go.
Now, as far as this circuit is concerned, yesterday they were qualifying in the dark, under the floodlights. Now they go racing at about the same time they were out for practice yesterday. We are approaching 10 o'clock for the start time of the race. And of course what that means is that the temperatures are going up and up and up all the time. They're going to be racing on a circuit rather different from that they qualified on.
That's true, but they have run, as you pointed out, on the track around this kind of time on Friday and possibly a little bit on, certainly on Friday. So they will be familiar with how the circuit will respond. But of course what's different is that we've had now a lot of track activity, both the GT3, GT4, and there's a classic car event here taking place as well, and they'll be on Dunlop rubber from back in the 60s. Having said all that, the track is always evolving, always changing. What everybody has to be wary of, and we're coming up right now to 10 to 10 Saturday morning, the heat is beginning to build, but the track temperature is still probably at a comfortable level. So I don't think you're going to see anybody struggling for the initial first corner braking zone and then turn in. So I would imagine we should see everybody get away, in effect, cleanly. Having said all that, we thought we were going to see that last night on the first of the FIA Nations Cup. And what happens is we get a usual first corner shunt and causes mayhem and really upturn the form book for who we thought might be in with a chance of taking a victory, or certainly getting on a podium.
You're looking at Fabio Michel and co-driver Greg Gilver there. Let's go to Bruce Jones on the grid with a pole-sitting car from Phoenix Racing.
Nikolai Moller-Madsen, we're just commenting, the temperature's already starting to rise on the grid, but you're looking pretty cool, but you should. Your car's on pole.
Yeah, Milan did a brilliant job yesterday in the qualifying. I did an okay job. We are P3 in the second one. I didn't get the lap together, but still we managed to beat P3. It's 2 qualifying races. They are not that important like we're used to. Normally all races is important in GT4. Here it's a little bit more about getting good points for the main race, and then everything tonight. But yeah, it's getting hot. Let's see how the cars react now, because we think it's going to be different than yesterday night when it was cold. So we just have to survive now the heat, and then we'll push again for tonight.
It's a real battle of the Audis at the front of the field. 3 of you, and then a McLaren. Do you think it's going to be like that at the finish?
It's going to be tough now, because we got extra 25 kilo yesterday night. The McLaren got 15 kilo out, so now it's 40 kilos different compared to yesterday. So they will definitely be more competitive today to fight against us. And I think we have to see. I think we are really good in one lap, but we are struggling a little bit on the pace overlaps. So yeah, let's see. Luckily we're in the front, so it's just about being wide enough, then they cannot pass, and then we have to finish there.
Good thinking, Nikolai. Thank you very much.
Interesting that the BOP has been changed overnight, and as ever, the GT technical boffins trying to make sure that there is parity, which is very, very difficult to achieve, given all the different weights and shapes and sizes that you've got of these cars.
I think where one might say, well, is that really fair, is if this event was going to take place at the time qualifying did last night, then everything is pretty much even. The track will be similar, the temperature will be similar. But of course, doing it and then having a race start at 10 o'clock in the morning when track temperature, ambient temperatures are different, is that a bigger penalty or not? And it's a significant amount of weight taken off the McLaren and a significant amount put into the Audi. So that's going to change your handling. You won't really have much opportunity to find out. We might have done a bit on an outlap, but nothing that's really going to be meaningful. Certainly nothing like you're going to experience going through the course of the 1 hour race. So it's a bit of an unknown.
Indeed so, and it'll be fascinating to see not only what the extra weight to the Audi does, but the lighter McLaren, and you've got one of the McLaren starting fourth on the grid of the two very quick British drivers, Finlay Hutchison, who's been a double winner in the European GT4 Series this year, and also the man that runs the car through his Academy Motorsport team, Matt Nicol-Jones. Number 3 Audi there on the second row of the grid, Gusaro Des will start, and the driver that's going to take over is Max Hesse. Now, this race, incidentally, with the mandatory pit stops, it's 95 seconds line to line as the teams get ready. We're into the final 5 minutes before the formation lap, and as Ernst Moser wishes Gusaro Des well. Let's go back to the grid.
Max Hess, your Audi looks stunning in the dark, but it's throwing so much light off it today. Is that your secret weapon? Dazzle the opposition?
Yeah, for sure it is. I mean, under the lights, it's really nice. Even now, the car looks good, it's fast, so we're ready to go.
Now, Gozia is starting the race. He's just got to keep careful through that first corner. It's a very tricky first corner.
Yeah, in general, we have to be quite safe at the first 2 races because it's just like a quali race. And this night we will have the big one, and we want to be ready for that. So now we're going for the safe way, trying to get a good starting position for race 3 this night, and there we will push all.
Excellent. Best of luck. Thanks, Max.
So Max Hesse, who's a relative newcomer to GT4 racing. There's the McLaren that we've just been talking about. That's the car that Finlay Hutchison will start. But just finishing off Max Hesse, he's been racing in TCR, front-wheel drive touring cars in Germany this year, 8th in the championship, but now coming to GT racing. Finlay Hutchison then good to go, former Carter, former Renault racer, and winner with Ricardo van der Ende of the Nürburgring and Misano races this year. Now, Ricardo van der Ende is in a BMW, which is at the back of the grid after an engine change, and he will share with Julien Piguet. Number 8 BMW is one that we're going to be focusing on over the course of these 2 qualifying races, because it didn't get out in either session, so the car will have some work to do, and there's another one with work to do from the back of the grid as well. The Alpine, started by Pierre Sansinena, which had a puncture in the qualifying session, didn't get a lap time in. Jan Kasperlik there, Porsche mounted. Further variety on the grid, the Porsche Cayman, and that, again, John, is a very quick car.
I'd like to see it a bit further up in the field, but nonetheless starting on the third row of the grid in a good position. Just has to be careful on the run down into turn 1. We've seen in the past, if we look at another Cayman, colour you're familiar with, David, and it looks resplendent in that red. Actually, if you get the red with the black rims and a few other little details inside, it would make a really nice road car, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just? Wouldn't it just? That's Andrew Janilov and Ethan Simeone's car starting the race. Ethan Simeone, the Canadian combination, and the GT4 Cayman, as opposed to a Cayman S, and it's got the traditional Porsche engine, not this new modern 2.5 turbo job. There you've got number 41, which is going to be started by Michel Blanchimont for the Santalok Junior team, another of the competitive Audis, and you'll see that car and its sister car very well placed for race 2. In fact, this is on pole for race 2, courtesy of Stephen Palette, who will take over. So again, we come to this fascination of the different speed of the drivers and how well a car does in one stint, how well it will do in another with a different driver on board.
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
Stephen Palette was very, very quick indeed in this car in qualifying. But it is starting back on the grid, 4th row.
And there's the redoubtable Jérôme Policon, who doesn't do much racing these days because he's so busy running this absolute fleet of Mercedes he has. But if you are familiar from Blancpain GT racing with the ACA ASP team, the ASP bit, Autosport Promotion, is Jérôme Policon's team. And he still gets behind the wheel on occasions. Jérôme, who has raced pretty much everything going. He's 54 years of age now. There you've got the Ginetta on the grid, which is going to be started by Peter Larson, which had a bit of a drama down at turn 10 yesterday when he locked up, ran a bit wide. Behind him, you'll see the KTM there with the forward-mounted bodywork to keep the driver cool. It's open at the moment, but that's the car of Konstantin Schürrle and Reinhard Koffler, former Formula Renault gun. So again, great variety. Ginetta from Garforth up near Leeds, the KTM alongside, different shapes, different sizes. So you've got, I think, pretty much with the exception of exception of Ferrari, just about every desirable sports car brand on the grid here, and a few quirky low-volume providers in the mix as well. There's Aston Martin, there's Mercedes, there's Maserati in the mix as well. BMW we've touched on at the back of the grid. There's the car that's started by Julien Piguet. The grid is being cleared. The race director, Alain Adam, in charge for the GT4 races. It's going to be a rolling start, of course. Pirelli rubber on which everybody runs And GT4 about to go racing in the desert for the first time.
Everybody rolls down in towards turn 1, and it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. They haven't been on track since they did the qualifying last night, and they're now going out. One out lap, not really sufficient to give you an indication. The factor that will be probably of foremost will be who can manage their tyre. We've been talking about it all weekend. We'll go on talking about it because it is going to be one of the major aspects. Controlling the tyre, not abusing the tyre, making sure that you use the tyre in a way which will give you consistency over the duration of this 1 hour race.
Now, Julien Piguet is perhaps there at the back of the grid, and also just ahead of him, Pierre Sonsinena, among those drivers whose tyre wear is going to be fascinating, because they're going to have to work the rubber harder because they've got work to do to get through the field. They want to get up the pecking order in order to qualify well for the main race, the final that comes up at the end of the day for the GT4 drivers. An awful lot of track time crammed into 2 days for GT3 and GT4 competitors here, as the cars weave around trying to generate warmth in the rubber. This is turn 4 you're looking down from. That is turn 1. This is the grid, where on the front of it you have Milan Doncia starting alongside Fabien Michel. On the second row, Gossier Rodest and Finlay Hutchinson. Row 3, it's the 2 Porsches, Jan Kasperlik alongside Ethan Simeoni. And then it's Michel Blanchimont and Jerome Policon on the 4th row. Row 5, we'll have the Ginetta starting on the inside of Primus Racing, Peter Larsson's car. Alongside him, Constantine Schurl in the Razoon Northern Racing KTM. Next up is the Hong Kong driver Philippe Kaddouri alongside Anthony Hodzem. Row 7 of the grid, Gilles Vannelet, very experienced, successful French GT racer, starts the BMW alongside Luc Brahms in the McLaren. Row 8 on the grid, David Touchebon and Stephen Patrick in the Bullet Racing Mercedes, the David Price run and the Eric shared car. Why Bullet Racing? Because Stephen Patrick liked the movie, Stephen Greenfield, simple as that. Row 9 is where you find Darren Jurgensen alongside the number 44 Aston Martin of James Holder. Behind them is Mads Tidstram and Pierre Sonsinena's Alpine, number 26, a car to watch after its puncture yesterday. And then the BMW number 8, started by Julien Piguet, co-driven by Ricardo van der Ende. Under normal circumstances, you would say that should be, in fact the Alpine as well, could be winning cars. So those are 2 to watch up from the back of the grid.
Well, certainly when we saw in the first race last night in the Nations Cup, we had an incident in turn 1 and the United Kingdom Ferrari got punted up the back, and it ended up restarting at the tail of the field, and it's made its way up virtually into the lead before we got to the first round, or the round of pit stops. So it is possible, if you've got the car and you've got the driver behind the wheel, to make progress. There are places you can pass, particularly maybe more so even in GT4, because the cars are less aerodynamic sensitive than a GT3 car is. So there is opportunity, and I hope we're going to see actually motor racing here this morning in Bahrain.
The great leveller again here is that it's a circuit new to almost everybody on the grid, and you've got people there, 2 cars starting out of position. You've got a great mix. It's a circuit where there are fast bits and twisty bits, so different strengths and weaknesses of cars will become apparent. It's a very Audi dominated 1, 2, 3, then it's McLaren 4, Porsche 5 and 6. Best Mercedes is 8th, KTM 10th, Ginetta 9th. So again, lots of different brands on the grid. The 2 Alpines, great looking cars those, will be worth watching with quick drivers. David Touchebon starting in 26, 36, Pierre Sonsinena. And this is the BMW of Darren Jurgensen, the American, who spent quite a bit of time racing in Australia this season. As the cars now come down towards turn 14, if the race director is happy with a tidy formation, he will give the signal to get the race underway. Ethan Simeoni's Porsche will be one to watch. As now then from pole position, Milan Doncia, brother of GT3 racer Indy Doncia, comes up towards the line on pole position. The pace car as it is peels in. It's up to the drivers now to control the pace, but also to hold station, because they need to stay one behind the other, and that's not what happens. Look, because already people dive out from the side. That's a very untidy start. Some accelerate away long before they get to the line. The race gets underway now, but there may be an investigation or 2 after that as the cars blast down towards the first corner. And from pole position, Milan Doncia looks like he's been well and truly mugged on the way down towards turn 1. On the outside line, Finlay Hutchinson in the McLaren tax. Can he go all the way around the outside? No, he can't. So it is going to be Fabien Michel for Santalot that leads the way. Hutchinson is second, and third is the poleman, Milan Doncia. And Gossier Rodest in the yellow Audi has dropped a long way back. Yes,
I think the McLaren really has benefited from that 25 kilogram weight benefit. And the Audi, having carried the additional 40 kilograms, has suffered. So a good start from the McLaren from the second row of the grid. Almost made it through to the lead going into turn 1. Thought the wiser of it, backed out of it. But and a contact as the one of the Alpines has turned around on the entry into turn 4. That was a contact that came on the right rear corner, and it gets going again. Wipers are also going. His hand came off the wheel, knocked the wiper stalk, which is a stalk on a GT4 car, not a switch or a button.
David Touchebon, and it looked as though it might have been Stephen Patrick in the Bullet Mercedes that just clipped him. So we'll double check on a replay, but certainly it's David Touchebon who has got way back. He was the better placed of the two Alpine drivers on the grid as the cars now come down through that kink at turn 9 into turn 10 for the first time. They're diving up the inside. Constantine Schurl goes ahead of Peter Larson in the Ginetta. The BMW tries to follow through. That's Julien Piguet, look, number 8, up from the back of the grid. He is absolutely flying.
Well, that's what I was saying. It is possible to pass. You've got 3 cars wide on the exit of turn 10, the run down into turn 11, and just the BMW's got the legs of all the opposition, the KTM and the Ginetta. Alpine also looking to find a way up the inside, gets the track position, but can he maintain it? He has just about managed to squeeze through, but good run there. Again, this battle going on for second place. The Audi has that little bit of an advantage. What is it, half a second? Not even that probably, as they come out of turn 13.
So they're coming up towards the end of lap number 1. It's a 1-hour race, remember, pit stop window, 25 to 35 minutes. Ethan Simeoni in the red Porsche there, crawling all over the back of the BMW as they head down towards the end of lap number 1. So the leading car is that of Fabian Michel, doing a good job from the outside of the front row. It's Santilot leading. Second is the Academy Motorsport McLaren, Finley Hutchison at the wheel, and then in third, Milan Doccia, the man from pole position. Over the timing line, they will come there to complete lap number 1. And for Santilot, the advantage is just under 4/10 of a second. Second is Hutchison, third is Doccia, fourth is the next Santilot car. As there to the inside line goes Hutchison, he can't do it, he stands on the brakes and slots back in behind. So fourth is Blancpain, fifth is Gilles Vanelay, sixth is Ethan Simeoni, seventh going nicely Philippe Cadore, Gosaro Rodest is down to eighth, ninth is Jan Kasperlik, and 10th is Jérôme Policon.
Well, certainly Finley Hutchison indicated his desire to get into the lead as quickly as possible, went from the right-hand side of the track back to the left-hand side, as you can see with these cars, the lack of downforce, there's a lot more body roll, so the car moving around considerably more than we normally expect to see with the GT races. But that position has been consolidated by Fabian Michel. He's managed to keep the McLaren behind. Now down through the sequence of turn 5, 6, 7, down into the tight right-hander at turn 8. Not an awful lot of overtaking you can do. Well, again, watch the McLaren coming under threat from Milan Doccia. Doccia really is the man who I feel probably feels he's been slightly, given an unfair handicap. He's got his saddlebags full of ballast, and he's doing all he can to get past the McLaren. If he can get ahead of the McLaren, he can probably control that position, but the McLaren has got the advantage in terms of the static weight is lower, and therefore he's got that acceleration off the corner and maybe a little bit of advantage in breaking into a corner.
And here comes Doccia up the inside. Hutchison, though, trying to get back onto the tail of Fabian Michel, the race leader, as they break now turn 11. Slight climb here. They head up the hill. It's an important part of the circuit, this, to get it right, because you need the momentum through that climb. Behind them in fourth place is Michael Blanchemont, fifth is Gilles Vanelay, but there, third, Milan Doccia. Now, he will give the car over to the very rapid Nikolai Moller-Madsen, so we'll see what can be done in the second stint of the race. And for the moment, third on the back of Hutchison has just done the absolute best middle sector. The McLaren coming back at the leading Audi. Replay of the start here as the cars accelerate over the line. And you see the way that Milan Doccia was really slow out of the blocks. I think he was waiting until he got to the lights, whereas others seemed to go when they got to the timing line. There it is from another angle. So straight away, cars from further back on the grid fan out. We've not yet had anything on the screen to suggest that it's under investigation, but the race director will be looking at these replays as well. He might want to work with one or two drivers post-race. The leaders have gone by, and Fabian Michel now leading by 7/10 of a second from Finley Hutchison, Milan Doccia third. Down to turn 1 on the start, and everybody wriggling through. It's always a pinch point, one or two getting forced out wide on the outside line, including Luke Brahms' McLaren there, losing places towards the back of the pack, but they all survived. It was up here where the David Touchebon Alpine was just clipped. There it is, and 33 was the car on the inside line that did the clipping, and it was Stephen Patrick in the Bullet Mercedes. I was right. So we're currently working lap 3. It is Fabian Michel who leads, as now Gosaro Rodest is coming under attack. Look there, because Pierre Sonsinena in the Alpine crawling all over the back of it. Gosaro Rodest, the Polish lady in the bright yellow highlighter pen coloured Audi, coming under attack from the Alpine. This for the race lead now. Fabian Michel versus Finley Hutchison, the quick Scottish driver. To the outside line goes Milan Doccia at the bottom of the hill. That's brave, coming down now through turn 8, but again it doesn't work. Can he get the drive out of the corner? He's going to be on the outside line for the King. Has he got his nose in front? Yes. Has he got the job done? No. McLaren back through on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, a very, very strong race, giving Finlay Hutchinson a hard time really making the McLaren's focus be on what's going on behind rather than trying to, and you can see already the gap now between first and second is stretched, and Finlay Hutchinson's having to defend quite, let's say, strongly, because the pace of Milan Doncha is quicker in terms of lap time. He just has got to find the one part of the racetrack where he can actually make that pace tick. Looking to come up the inside, he's going to be on the outside going into turn 12, really just using his strengths. And up the inside now into turn 13, and he's going to get the pass. He's made the pass into turn 13. McLaren has been forced wide. That was a clever bit of driving by Milan Doncha, because he was on the inside. He could afford then to run up to the middle of the track and put the brakes onto the McLaren. McLaren looks to come back, because remember, this is the lighter of the two cars, and it's got the benefit in terms of acceleration, but not necessarily in terms of top speed.
Job done. On the inside, through goes Milan Doncha, up then into second place. Now it's going to be fascinating to see whether he can get away from the McLaren and if he can catch the race leader at the end of 3 laps as they come over the line. But here comes the McLaren. Look up the inside line. Finlay Hutchinson, with a lighter car, with a very svelte shape and possibly a toe as well, makes his move back to retake second place at the end of this long home straight into turn 1. Hard on the brakes. Finlay Hutchinson goes through on the inside, back into second spot.
And that's going to be frustration, because all that hard work by Milan Doncha to get that second place after what we're on now on the 4th lap. And it's just simply, he was a sitting duck coming down the straight. The pace the McLaren had slightly quicker off the final turn gave him the benefit. Then he got the 2, and once he had got that 2, he only had to put himself alongside the number 5 Audi to take, sorry, the number 10 Audi to take that position back. Number 5 Audi to take that position back.
So the 10 McLaren back into second place, under attack, but Finlay Hutchinson now, of course, losing more ground against the race leader, Fabio Michel. It's good news for the leading cars. Again, Doncha tries to line up for a go on the outside line in, the tighter line out of the corner, but that's only going to put him on the outside line for the kink at turn 9. We were here a lap ago, and we're here again. McLaren on the inside, Audi on the outside.
And you've got to think, can he keep? Well, he's certainly going to have to back out of it now. Can he move up the inside? No, he's backed out of it again. He thinks best pace is going to be once again into turn 10. Gets much better edge, and you can see he got much better traction coming off turn 10. So this is deja vu 1 lap ago. The problem will be, can he build enough? In fact, the passover was done coming out of turn 12 into turn 13. But can he make the position stick into turn 11? Having now done so, can he build the gap? Because clearly the grip that the Audi has got at Milan Doncha, number 5, is greater than the McLaren number 10 of Finlay Hutchinson. If he can stretch that advantage coming through these 2 right-hand turns sufficiently, he might be able to get enough of a gap that would make it more difficult than it was 1 lap ago for the McLaren to claw back that second place.
So Doncha up into second there. I mean, 4th mistake out of Hutchinson down at turn 10. In 4th place there is now the change, because you've got Gilles Vanelay ahead of Michel Blanchimont. The Julien Piguet's BMW carving its way through the order, taking the Essence Inena with him. So down they come towards turn 14. And there, look, number 39 is dropping back. That's Gilles Vanelay losing out through on the inside line goes the Essence Inena. The Alpine, absolutely flying, is the car, the type of car that won at Spa in the European Championship earlier on in the season, for example. So we know it's a quick competitive proposition. Ethan Simeoni in the red Porsche, about to go toe-to-toe with Gosar Red S down towards the turn 1 right-hander. Leaders go through. We're on lap number 5, and Pierson Sinena's Alpine is now 6th. And Julien Piguet's BMW is up into 4th place at the back of the grid. Gosar Rodest fends off Ethan Simeoni in the Porsche. There are some great battles going on here, but Julien Piguet is only 7 seconds off the race lead from the back of the grid.
Well, I was going to say, that's going to be the story of the race so far. We've had that focus on the battle going on for second place, but in fact, the pace of the BMW number 8 has been absolutely stunning, and it's almost a mirror of what we saw in the GT3 Nations Cup last evening. It is possible to make progress from the back of the grid if you've got a car that's balanced, it's got the grip, and the driver behind the wheel principally who knows how to make use of those 2 qualities. But the little Alpine darts one way, darts back the other way. It's so nimble compared to, it is a sort of, I would call it a boutique GT car, whereas things like Audi or Porsche or others are more mainstream manufacturers, volume manufacturers. Alpine gets up the inside into turn 9, and that was a lovely little move. Just the car is so nimble and light. It takes you back to what Colin Chapman used to say. It's all about lightweight, and you don't need horsepower. If you've got lightweight, you get good handling, you get good braking.
So Pierre Sonsinena at the wheel of the Alpine, former French Formula Renault racer turned GT driver, 6th in the French Championship this year, and after a puncture in qualifying, never got a lap time in. That car now carving his way up through the field, chasing after Julien Piquet. Piquet, by the way, number 8 BMW, was last on the grid. He's now running 4th, but he's being warned about track limits. Jan Kasperlik, Porsche, under attack from Grossaro Rodest with the Phoenix Audi. Way up wide over the curb ahead of them. There bounces Gilles Vannelet's BMW. And an absolute best in the middle sector by Milan Doncha. Now that he's up in the 2nd spot, he's having a go at trying to bring down the gap, and he's doing so against the race leader Fabien Michel. So there's a lot yet that's going to shake out of this race. As I say, we're on lap number 5, the leader coming up towards the completion of it, and Fabien Michel, it is up front from Milan Doncha. The gap last time, 2.7 seconds. It's down to half a second now between the 2 race leaders. The 2 Audis for the lead are getting themselves together. Milan Doncha having now done the fastest lap of the race. There they are, nose to tail down towards turn 1, and Fabien Michel has seen that lead absolutely disappear. He's sideways, he's back on the power, and not only is Doncha now up with him, he's taking the McLaren with him.
Well, the pace that Milan Doncha's had since the lights went out was always there. He lost position into turn 1, but now he's finally got that car into the position he earned through hard work in qualifying, takes the lead into turn 4, and you can just look at the number 5. You'd think it was a different car. It's just got more grip, it's got more pace everywhere around the racetrack. The only place that it is slightly slower than the opposition, be equal to that of the centre lock Audi, is in a straight line. But if you've got a car that's quick here, you can build the lead, you can build your advantage, and then you can sit in the straight, not have to be concerned.
The Stephen Patrick David Touchebon incident from earlier on in the race being investigated, incidentally. So the stewards are having a quick look, and we're looking at the top 3, where up front at the moment is Milan Doncha, and he's trying to get away from the Fabien Michel out in 2nd place, and he's doing so to an extent now. Finlay Hutchison 3rd. Now remember, that McLaren's had weight taken out of it, the Audis have had weight added, and yet they're still ahead. In 4th place, it's Julien Piquet. Now he has done the fastest lap of the race, and the BMW is still closing up the way. So BMW getting there. Let's go to the pit lane and join Bruce Jones once more.
From the very, very back of the grid, but it's quite a story.
Oh yeah, we had a technical issue yesterday in qualifying, so we're starting last in the 2 races. Pierre is doing an amazing job. Now he started 21, he's 6. So he's pushing a lot on the tires, so we'll see at the end of the race. But yeah, the guys did an amazing job. They worked all night to put the car on the grid today, so thanks a lot for them, and yeah, we'll see at the end of the race.
You do the work. I'll leave you to it. Thank you, Pierre-Alexandre.
Pierre-Alexandre Jean, that was, who will take over the Alpine. Stephen Patrick, who is in last place, is being given a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. And there, Grossaro Rodest up the inside of Gilles Vannelet to go 7th, coming into turn 14. So the Alpine, you've just been hearing from the 2nd driver of the car, is up into 5th place from penultimate on the grid. Julien Piquet just up ahead. We're not that far, of course, off the pit window opening, as back comes the BMW with all that grunt in a straight line. Gilles Vannelet, very, very successful driver over the years, and he's about to make the move up the inside line as they break for turn 1, and he will go back through, will he, on the inside line? He has the inside, he's got his nose in front, can he cut across? Yes! Retakes the place going into turn 2, so Gilles Vannelet is back up into 7th place now. Grossaro Rodest and Jan Kasperlik right up behind him though.
Yes, there's going to be another challenge coming up the hill into turn 4. So the Audi trying to find a way back past the BMW, and you've got the Porsche up. So the battle between these 3 German brands all together in turn 4. The Audi reclaims that position for the BMW. Porsche sitting there waiting. Well, when's my turn going to come? I want to get involved. I want to make progress. And throw on the Alpines.
And that's 26 again. That's David Touchebon, who's already been tagged into 1 spin, and he's had a drama by the look of it at turn 14. And I think this might have been self-induced because he gets it wrong under braking.
Something went wrong because the car pulled over to the left and then snapped and went into that spin. Did he avoid any contact with the barrier down at the point? I don't know whether there's a brake problem or whether he got a wheel onto part of the... He's gone a long, long way. That spin did not stop quickly.
And he's lucky not to collect the BMW as he went past Darren Jorgensen's car. That's going to get expensive.
I have to think that he's going to go into the pit lane, because that looked to me as if something on the front brake system may have not operated correctly. But here again, the battle for 2nd place, instead of being Milan Doncha, who's now gathering pace and pulling away over a 2nd. So Finlay Hutchinson trying his best to get back into second place, but this time with Fabien Michel as the challenge.
And he's going to do it, I think, because here comes the move down towards turn 14. McLaren on the inside line, Audi on the outside line, and Finlay Hutchison, then the British driver, will go through up into second place. And Fabien Michel trying to stay in this leading group so that Stephen Palette, who is going to, so that Greg Gilvaux, I should say, who will take over that car, still has a chance to fight for the race lead. So it's a bit of damage limitation now. He's going to try and stay up with the leaders as best he can. We've done 7 laps, and Dodger, having gone from third to second to first, is now clear by 2 seconds from Finlay Hutchinson. Down to third, Fabien Michel. Fourth is Julien Piguet, who is lapping quicker than the 2 ahead of him, and a mistake from the McLaren.
Yeah, Finlay Hutchinson ran deep and wide into turn 1 and consequently overran the corner, and that will give hope to Fabien Michel. Maybe he thinks that there's something going on. That's the Alpine into the pits, and it's the rear of the car they're working on, whether it's a rear brake problem or whether certainly the rear wheel has been difficult in removing. The nuts are off, but the wheel there comes off now. So is it a rear brake problem that caused that Alpine to go to the spin under braking coming down into turn 14? Certainly it was something beyond, in my view, the driver's responsibility.
Now there is the leading quintet. So that's Dodger, Hutchison, Michel, Piguet, Sonsinena. Big gap back to Michael Blanchemont, who is in 6th spot. Xaira Des 7th ahead of Gilles Vanelay, 8th Jan Kasperlik, and then Jérôme Policon to round out the top 10. There's Policon's Mercedes in the background ahead of Ethan Simeoni, way up wide on the curve in the red Porsche. And down the inside goes Constantine Schurlin. He goes through the KTM, so a change there for 11th place. The Maserati turning through with Anthony Hodgson at the wheel of it. Glorious sounding car, that Maserati, and going strongly ahead of Peter Larson in the Ginetta. So there, look, the KTM is another of those rather quirky shapes. Constantine Schurl going nicely in that car, and has made that move successfully against Ethan Simeoni in the sports car boutique entered Porsche Cayman. So race leaders currently on lap number 8. There is the battle between Michael Blanchemont and Xaira Des. The gap has come down from 1.3 seconds to be side by side. Inside line up through turn 11, outside line at turn 12. Xaira Des can't find a way through. Can she get the undercut? Goes for the inside line into turn 13. Blanchemont keeps his nose in front. Xaira Des has the tighter line but doesn't get the place unless Michael Blanchemont goes wide up the curve. No, he hangs on to it.
But she's got pace. Certainly that yellow Audi is the quicker of the 2 Audis we're looking at right now. Almost got her nose into or alongside, sufficiently alongside the Santa Lock car, which she's battling with. She needs maybe to be a little bit patient, not be too aggressive, overly aggressive in trying to make that pass. She's got the pace. The pass will come. Just choose your part of the racetrack and focus on that, and not just try and do it in every single corner, and maybe with the consequence of maybe hurting your tyres too early in this race. Still 41.5 minutes of the race to go.
And that yellow Audi, don't forget, started third on the grid, so it's dropped a long way back in the first stint, delayed at turn 1 a little bit, and off the line as well as wide up the curve. There goes Gilles Vanelay, turning into turn 1, and there, still in the pits, is 26 Alpine, and this is not looking very promising, is it, for the David Touchemont, Antoine Leclerc entry?
No, it's something the right rear they're looking at. Was a brake issue that caused the car to swerve very abruptly to the left and then back across the racetrack. Luckily to stay off those barriers, but it did go a long way before it finally came to a halt in turn 14.
Jérôme Policon turns through an 88 Mercedes down in 10th place. Of course, in the second stint, we're not that far away from the pit window opening. You'll have different drivers in these cars, so some will take on a different persona. Now there, look, Julien Piguet is being caught in the Equus BMW by Pierre Sonsinena's little Alpine, and also Michael Blanchemont is coming back at the pair of them in the car that the race 2 pole sitter Stephen Palette will take over. So the top 6 covered by 18 seconds. There's still a chance of a fair bit more shuffling in that in the second stint.
I mean, it's just a question of where you make your pit stop. You're going to do it early and get the quicker of your 2 drivers in at the earliest opportunity. Let them go out and try and make up whatever places you can. It's always, this is the Alpine, something just dragging from that right rear corner, whether it's a bit of tape. But a little car that I would have thought as the race progresses, because it's fundamentally almost a race car rather than what might look at the BMW, which is very much a production car. But this battle going on again.
So 41 Audi, 6th. Michael Blanchemont, 7th, Xaira Des behind. And actually, they've been caught again by Gilles Vanelay. Vanelay taking Kasperlik and Policon along with him. And that gap is coming down as the Audis fight. Can Gosaro Des make a move? Yes, down towards turn 14. The yellow Audi dives up the inside line and she'll get the job done here on the inside and goes through. Will she go wide? Yes, a little bit. Can Blancpain fight back? Look, Vandelay, the BMW, is right there as well. But no, Gosaro Des is ahead coming up to the pit
But
straight.
she could easily get mugged because the BMW's got the draft. It's pulled out. So she is in a vulnerable position, but goes from left across to right to stop the BMW. And you've got a clear line down on the racing line on the left-hand side for which has managed somehow to keep the pack behind. And that pack looked like it was going to just engulf her coming into turn 1.
Good defensive job, and now Vandelay up past Blancpain, who gets run out wide up the curb there. So the Audi is off its stride, and that's going to put Jan Kaspernick in a position to challenge in the Porsche. Look, coming out of turn 3 round the outside line. Jerome Policon tries to buy into this as well as they head towards turn 4 now. And Gosaro Des, having made that move, does go through into 6th. 7th now is Vandelay. 8th is Kaspernick. Contact. 9th and 10th, Blancpain and Policon of damage, and debris flies.
Yeah, well, that was a no-brainer. You could see what was going to happen. The Audi on the racing line, the Mercedes coming up the inside. There was never going to be a clean overtake. As we go on board with these two cars, then they battle down through turn 6 into 7, then the run down into 8.
And there might be a yellow flag at turn 10 as Policon goes up the inside of Blancpain, and they're going to touch again here. We know that Ethan Simeone's Porsche has stopped in a safe position at turn 10, and Policon is not amused by the antics of the Audi.
Well, I think the Audi's shedding body parts. Look at them flying. I mean, I don't know where that's all come from, whether that was on the front, on the side, or the rear, but certainly loads of carbon fibre coming off the front of the Audi as they go through and exit onto turn 10.
So can Jerome Policon here play a manager in this team, find a way past in a straight line. The Audi gets away once more. You see the little track map there stuck on the dashboard of the car as up towards turn 11 now. Goes Jerome Policon. The Audi's deep into the corner, but he's not close enough to take advantage.
No, but the Audi certainly did overrun and run very, very wide, wider than you would like to do, but manages to consolidate, get it back again. And the Mercedes coming through turn 12. You're having to see how much you have got to wait. Now the KTM dives up the inside into turn 13. Policon ain't going to be happy with that one because the door was left open and you didn't have to get a second invitation to put the KTM up the inside. Now Mercedes losing contact with the battle that he was directly involved in. The crossbow, the little KTM, just doesn't have the grunt at the end of this second quickest part of the racetrack, but is good under brakes. And now further contact.
Good effort by Constantine Schurl. This real opportunistic driving, and it's worked. He's ahead coming out of turn 14, but the little turbo engine versus the grunt and go of the Maserati that's just gained 2 places, and the Mercedes. Anthony Hodson gets past Policon, gets past the KTM. Here comes Jerome Policon to fight back. So the KTM 1 up and 2 down, but the real winner out of all of that in the Maserati is Anthony Hodson. He's into the top 10. Jerome Policon back up into 11th, and he's still fighting. This is a great advert for the circuit as well as for GT4, because you can see the way that some cars work in certain bits, others work where the power kicks in, and Policon gets forced off the road here.
He didn't get the pass. If he had done, he may have had to give it back up again because he would have made it by using parts of the racetrack which are not designated racetrack. Again, the little KTM and the Ginetta now side by side, and spins. The KTM, I think, might have got spun round, but may have been in contact with the Ginetta. Can't really see what was still there, still running, but it certainly was very tight between those 4 cars in the back of this little group. The Maserati, as you say, David, just certainly was hovering around and was watching what was going on. Now Mercedes and Policon dive down the inside into turn 8. The undercut from the Maserati's got a big grunty V8 engine in that. But again, on the outside coming through turn 9, but just managed just to drag ahead of the Mercedes. Policon thinks about going down the inside into turn 10, but not close enough. Wow, good motor racing.
There's a nudge from the Mercedes against the Maserati there, I think, when Policon did close up. It was a bit late. He got into the back of the Maserati. We saw the Maserati weave a little bit. And Jerome Policon is being given a warning about driving standards. So Jerome Policon, with all that experience, is under observation from the race officials here. So he's on the back of Anthony Hodson trying to retake the place. He's got the pesky Ginetta behind him. Then that rather impudent KTM also trying to regain the ground lost in the last lap or so. It was here, remember, that Constantine Schurl dive-bombed the Mercedes, and then he lost places where the power kicked in against the KTM. But look at the Ginetta right round the outside, way off the road. Peter Larson nearly in the desert. He's back on the circuit and he's going to have a go on the outside line, and he's gone through.
Yes, he's gone through, but he went so far off the racetrack. The question is, when you abuse track limits to that degree, do you actually gain or in fact lose time overall in the lap? But this the straight line performance of the Mercedes yet again. Is he going to come into the pits? I think he may well do.
The pit window is open, and in early had come Fabien Michel to give way to the quicker Greg Gilver. Also in is Gilles Vannelet, and now Jérôme Policon will come in as well to give way to Thomas Drouet. So 54-year-old Jérôme gives way to 20-year-old Thomas Drouet. And the race now is 11 laps old, 34 minutes remain, and down the Cavaliers pit lane comes Jérôme Policon. The KTM is in as well, Constantin Schurl, to give way to Reinhard Köffler. Number 42 Audi with Greg Gilver being ensconced behind the wheel is good to go. 95 seconds line to line is the pit stop. We have on our timing screen the time of each pit stop for the Bahrain circuit. Different timekeeping system from that we have elsewhere, but it's quite a useful column just to see who gains on pit stops and who has a really bad pit stop. As there is the leading car. Remember, Milan Doncha is ahead of Finlay Hutchison, the gap 2.4 seconds. Last time the gap came down by Nats Crotchet, so the McLaren fractionally the faster, but both of them being caught by Julien Piguet in the BMW. They're ready to go. At Saint-Aloc is Greg Gilver, and the team will wave him away. You've got to release the car, bearing in mind the drive time, so you don't leave the pit lane early.
So he's going to be very close to the 95 seconds because it's already 1 minute 33. So I've just gone past the 95 seconds now.
1 minute and 36 line to line.
Yeah.
That's
That's
good.
That's
good.
what I'm saying. It's pretty
Yeah.
close. But that's what you have to be able to do. And that was expertly choreographed by the Saint-Aloc team.
So if you're under, then you are, of course, liable for a penalty. Gilles Vannelet's pit stop, in contrast, 1 minute and 40. So there's the BMW coming back out. Jérôme Policon has handed over to Thomas Drouet. Another good stop there, 1 minute 36 seconds as well. Order will, of course, shuffle all the way through the pit window. There, Reinhard Köffler in the KTM, and there are the race leaders. Look, set to put a lap on, but they will lose that ground that they've just gained when they have to make their pit stops. But the leading gap is 2.3 seconds. It's come down again.
But the issue that Donche and Finlay Hutchison will be acutely aware is that these cars who have just made their pit stops, fresh drivers in, they don't want to get involved because that could cause them to be just hesitant when it comes to making an overtake. They themselves then have got to make their own pit stops before this pit stop window closes in another 7 or so minutes.
Now there, Jan Kasperlik versus Gustavo Rodest. This is for 5th place. Kasperlik, having gone through, keeps the place. So he was ahead when they crossed the timing line. He's still ahead leaving turn 1, and that means that the best placed Porsche goes ahead of the yellow Audi. Gustavo Rodest staying out there, 41. So into the pit lane, Michel Blanchemin, who was leading the race early on. Stephen Palette, pole sitter for race 2, will take over, and that car is going to be quick now.
Yes, indeed it is. Steve Palette was pretty impressive in practice qualifying, the Alpine in as well.
Yeah, that's Sonsinena to give way to Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Jan Kasperlik there keeping Gustavo Rodest at bay. Pit window remaining open. The leaders have yet to serve their stops. Down the pit roads coming another of the Mercedes, incidentally, Mats Tinstrup at the moment. As you look at this fight going on for 5th place on the road.
Yeah, the Audi looks marginally the quicker of the cars in this middle second sector of the Bahrain International Circuit. Number 5, the race leader, stretching his legs, 2.3 seconds ahead of Finlay Hutchinson and McLaren. One of the two is going to have to make the break and come into the pit lane and do the driver change. Both teams are probably pretty much prepared for that.
There is Lisette Brahms ready to take over from husband Luc in the McLaren. Remember Peter Larsson's Ginetta that went way wide up in turn 13 a lap or so ago. He's being warned about track limits. There is the race leader, Milan Doncha. How much longer is he going to stay out for? Will he come in this time? Yes, he does. The leading Audi then into the pit lane for Nikolai Müller-Madsen to take over.
So has the McLaren followed in, or are they going to... the McLaren has come in as well. So
Yeah.
first and second are coming into the pits, well within the pit lane window, sort of halfway through the pit stop opportunities. So it'll be a battle in the pits to see who can get as close to that 1 minute 35 or 95 second minimum pit lane time.
Also in is the 3rd place BMW of Julien Piguet to give way to Ricardo van der Ende. Something that could be a potential winning car, even though he was last on the grid, which would be quite a story.
There
There
it
it is. So Ricardo van der Ende is ready to take over. He knows how to win in BMWs, he knows how to win in GT4. Good drive by Julien Piguet, massively experienced French driver. Matt Nicol-Jones ready to take over the McLaren. Matt made his name winning championships and races aplenty in Ginettas. He's raced Aston Martin successfully, and it's his team operating that car. Academy Motorsport is Matt Nicol-Jones' team, and again, that could well be a winning car come the end. Gashara Dest brings the highlighter pen in the background look.
You know what? Looking at the BMW, the pace that car's had to get to the position it got to before the pit stops, and with then the variation in driver talent, whether you put your number 1 driver or your number 2 driver in first or second, you have to say that the number 1 drivers went in at the start of this race, so it'll be interesting to see who does the best job once these pit stops are clear. As the 42, which is whereabouts they've just done their pit stop.
Yeah,
so
the highest place in the stoppers, but this is the car it's racing against, about to leave the pit lane. So number 5 Audi then down the pit road. We need to see where it joins in relative to Greg Gilbert, who's taken over this car. So you've got Nikolai Moller-Madsen taking over number 5, 42 now. Greg Gilbert at the wheel of it.
just comes out of the pits.
And it's going to be a fair old gap, isn't it, for
It
that
is.
leading Audi, which did a stop at 1 minute and 36. So again on the button. And the McLaren is second, and third going through is now Ricardo van der Ende. So 42 Audi has lost out pretty badly on the stops, and it did a good pit stop. So Greg Gilbert has either had a very slow lap or it was a deteriorating stint from co-driver Fabien Michel, because that cost quite a long way back after the pit window. So the leader is Audi 5 Nikolai Moller-Madsen, second is Matt Nicol-Jones, their third is the BMW now of Ricardo van der Ende, and their fourth is the Alpine of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. So that's your leading quartet all in a line.
And you have to wonder, certainly I do, when you put Ricardo van der Zande into that BMW just under 5 seconds behind the second place McLaren, will that gap close down significantly by there you can see the gap much less than the 5 seconds it was when they went across timing and scoring, but it's the little Alpine that's really all over the back of the BMW, giving it a big chase along. So it's the battle it'll be second place between these 3 cars before we get very much further into this race.
The Andy Merrick, Stephen Patrick Mercedes has already had a drive-through. He's now being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. They're your leading 4. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen leading the race. Matt Nicol-Jones second in the McLaren. Third, Ricardo van der Ende BMW. And is there a bit of smoke coming out of that car, or is there some little haze on the left side? Have another look at that. Fourth behind him now is going to be the Alpine. You can see a Pierre-Alexandre Jean. BMW looks okay, but at the moment it's not catching those ahead. There down the pit lane, Anthony Hodson to give way to brother Piotr. In that symphonic sounding Maserati of the Polish Maserati owning family, Maserati dealer family. Driver change. There is now the battle on between van der Ende and Alexandre Jean behind him as they come down towards turn 14. BMW looks okay, doesn't it? But it's certainly under attack.
It is. I mean, the Alpine will be probably slightly better under braking, probably slightly better in terms of the overall use of the Pirelli tyre, maybe a little bit quicker in some of the parts of the circuit, but the BMW's got straight line speed, and that's going to be its salvation. There's 3 really high-speed parts of this racetrack where it can stretch its legs. As long as the gap stays where it is, if it gets any closer, under braking, the Alpine will be having a little sniff. And certainly in that middle sector coming down through turns 4, 5, 6, 7 into 8, that again is an area where the Alpine will be maybe slightly more competitive.
So there's the race leader. That is Nikolai Moller-Madsen, who is 4 seconds ahead of Matt Nicol-Jones. And there's the fight on for third place as again Pierre-Alexandre Jean has a look to the inside. Ricardo van der Ende fends him off, but by squabbling they're not catching those ahead. Andy Merrick, drive-through penalty, the car speeding in the pit lane, whether it was him on the way out or Stephen Patrick on the way in we know not, as there Pierre-Alexandre Jean tries to unsettle van der Ende. A lap ago down at turn 8 there was a flash of the lights to try to distract the Dutchman. Is he going to do it again? Let's see as they come into the braking zone. Moves to the inside line, but again the hugely experienced, oh so successful Ricardo van der Ende, GT champion, Formula Ford Festival winner, managing to fend him off, but he's losing touch with MNJ in second place.
Yeah, he's having to drive in his mirrors and keep an eye on the pesky little Alpine, because it is all over the back of the BMW, certainly in this middle sector of the racetrack where the Alpine is that little bit more nimble. It pulls out, tries to get up on alongside, and it may well achieve it. It's going to be alongside coming up the back straight, coming down into turn 11, so the Alpine has done sufficiently to get ahead of the BMW, and I'm surprised, because I thought for sure that Ricardo van der Ende was going to be pursuing the Audi ahead of him, or the McLaren ahead of him, and not having to deal with a battle with the Alpine.
So now Pierre-Alexandre Jean released, he will go after Matt Nicol-Jones but really we need to be looking at lap times of this car now up into third place relative to the race leader. Nikolai Moller-Madsen's last lap, of course, included the pit stop, so it's not a relevant lap time yet. We'll get flying lap times this lap through. But
The BMW's got a problem. I mean, the gap is just it's massive.
Yeah.
In the space of, 4 corners, the Alpine's put up at the 3.5, 4 seconds.
I think the BMW's going to have to pit because you're right, the pace has gone. I remember I said it was a little bit smoky.
Yeah.
I wonder whether it does have a problem. Look, he's not even in the background. He's crawling out of turn 14. Ricardo van der Ende has got a big problem and he is heading into the pit lane. So the BMW has got big dramas. And there, Ricardo van der Ende comes into the pit lane. He lost the place, but instantly the car dropped away and it's crawling down the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of turn 10, you could see that the Alpine got the advantage, but it was then from exit of turn 13 down to 14. It just literally, like he was just backed out of it altogether. The gap just went from, half a second to about 5 seconds.
Engine change yesterday on that car. I was going to ask whether it's a legacy of that, but it was going so well in the first stint, you'd suggest it's going to be something different as a problem. However, it is in the pit lane and potentially into retirement. Bruce Jones no doubt will go and investigate for us as the leaders are on lap number 16, and it's 7 seconds first to third. You're looking there at Nicky Leutwiler ahead now of 51 Ginetta, which has got Johan Rosen at the wheel of that car, another Swedish GT Championship regular. 41 Stephen Palette ahead of Enzo Guibert, who's taken over from Gilles Vannelet. So different drivers in these cars now for the second stint. Thomas Drouet there for 88 Mercedes. And I'll give you the order at the end of the next lap because it's all shuffled again with Ricardo van der Ende coming into the pit lane. Greg Gilbert and his co-driver Fabien Michel, incidentally, leading the Pro-Am section, all those around them in the Silver Cup, the silver drivers, whereas the silver and bronze are in the Pro-Am.
Gap between second and third, 3.1 seconds. We're on board, of course, here with the 88 Mercedes. But that's a gap now that the CRM Alpine has got clear of the BMW. I just wonder, is that going to be another battle which is just about to get engaged?
Well, the way that Pierre-Alexandre Jean is going suggests that he can have a go against Michael Jones. He's got clear real estate ahead of him. Now you're on board with the Mercedes. Thomas Drouet, another great sounding car, past the support race pits, past the Oasis pits on the right hand side, heading now, John, down towards turn 11.
Yeah, on the brakes, get the nose in, make sure you make your apex. That's about as good as you want to get. Let the car drift out at that part of the exit of the corner, then let it naturally come back to the left to make her cut through, again using loads of curb on the inside, but that's permitted as long as you don't get all 4 wheels off on the inside. You'll not be a problem. Into turn 13 out of into 14, again is the exit. You've got to be careful. Again, everything looking pretty good for Thomas Drouet in the 88 Mercedes at ASP.
And he's looking to try to gain places if he can. We are approaching the final 22 minutes of the race. Down towards turn 14 he comes.
The difficulty he has is the 2 cars ahead of him have both had their last lap, personal best last lap. So his lap is about a second down, and those of 7th and 8th place. So maybe now he is clear, he can maybe focus and get some more performance.
Over the line he goes. You see the steering wheel, in quotes, no top, no bottom to it, just the sides. It's like a big joystick in a sense. He turns through all the switches, the little blower there to try and get some cool air into the car, the data logger there as well. But it's not a million miles away from the car you would take out of the showroom.
Absolutely not. And I say, just with the new product being launched by Mercedes this weekend, it's getting even closer to the race car.
There's a McLaren as well, isn't there?
The new McLaren 720S was launched here this weekend, and that's going to take their brand to another level of technology, because the 720 is a car that really is a much more definitive adaptation as a road car vis-a-vis the race car, whereas the original MP412 had struggles with certain areas where the car was not as competitive on or in a racing context.
Perhaps not the most user-friendly of cars, but that's being addressed now as well. As you see there, the Audi through. So the mid-pack now a little bit more strung out as they come past the Oasis pit. Back in the background, the KTM getting stuck in. That's now in the hands of Reinhard Koffler going ahead of Enzo Guibert. So a change you just see for 6th place. Koffler ahead of Guibert in the BMW.
Stephen Palette in that Satellite Audi Junior team, we thought he would make some progress, but he's just had his own personal best lap on that lap, 2 minutes 14.7, clearly but the quickest lap of anybody was on lap 16. And that car is in 5th place, but it's a further 14 or 15 seconds behind. Gregory Gilbert. So a lot of work to be done, with only 19 minutes or more of this race to run.
Indeed so, and the race lead, 4.3 seconds. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, European champion, last time got away a little bit from Matt Nicol-Jones, but the Alpine in third place is now 6/10 back, closing on the second place car of Matt Nicol-Jones, the McLaren, and lapping quicker than the race leader. So the Alpine in third could still win this race.
Yes, Alpine is the second quickest car on the circuit on that last lap, and the gap down to 0.6 of a second. So where are those three cars? The lead car just under 5 seconds ahead. That's a fairly comfortable lead for Nikolai Müller-Madsen. But Matt Nicol-Jones will be beginning to get hot and sweaty under the collar, because the little Alpine will be all over the rear of the McLaren. So we just watch some of the field making their way up into turn number 4.
The red Porsche, remember, that was going well early on, Ethan Simeone retired. We didn't see the car stationary, but it was a drivetrain problem that stopped him. Nothing is stopping at the moment Pierre-Alexandre Jean, because this car now crawling all over the back of the number 10 McLaren down towards turn 10. Matt Nicol-Jones is going to have to stick out his elbows here, but the longer it takes Pierre-Alexandre Jean to get past, the longer that will preserve Nikolai Moller-Madsen's race lead of just over 4 seconds.
Well, the little 4-cylinder turbo unit in the back of the Alpine over the V8 turbo unit in the back of the McLaren, there's nothing to choose between the two cars in a straight line, but it's under braking, and it'll probably be a little bit more under the road holding and grip that the Alpine has got. It's just got to find the way through. It's not going to do it up through turn 12. He's too close to try and make it stick. But down into, can he make it into 13? He's going to have a look down the inside, but thinks the wiser of it. Backside gets the opportunity to think about it going down into turn 14. Maybe not the best corner, because the McLaren has got good straight line speed, and even if he does get overtaken, he'll no doubt remake that pass going down into turn 1.
There's the leader just going out of turn 14. PAJ, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, up behind MNJ, Matt Nicol-Jones. They come now through turn 14, and they will accelerate up towards the timing line. Poor old Ricardo van der Ende, not only is he out of the race, he's also being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. But it's not your day, it's not your day.
Was that coming into the pits? Probably was.
Well, certainly not when he retired. It trickled him, but it might have been for Julien Piquet to hand over. Down they come into turn 1. This is the battle for second place, and from a long way back, the Alpine dives up the inside. Indicator on from Matt Nicol-Jones, though, briefly. Was that to say, I know you're quicker, I'm going to get out of the way, or did he just knock the indicator on by error? Either way, Pierre-Alexandre Jean goes through. He's up in a second place, and Matt Nicol-Jones may well have decided that because these are qualifying races, there's no point really forcing the issue. The Alpine is clearly quicker. Let him go. Let's see what we can do, and latch onto the back of him.
Yes, I think that was a sensible thing. Whether it was an accident or whether it was by design, the fact is that the Alpine is the quicker of these two cars in a given lap, and it was inevitable that if you didn't let it go, then maybe you would end up having contact, and that would have been a different scenario altogether. So the pace of the little number 36 Alpine has been sufficient. I mean, it was doing 2:14s up until the point it got up to the back of the number 10 Academy Motorsport McLaren. It is capable of lapping consistently in the 2:14s, which is what Stephen Paletta is doing in the number 141 Santaloc Audi. He's closed that gap down to just over 12 seconds to the sister car of Gregory Gilbert. So those two cars, Santaloc 4th and 5th, running quickly, but it is the 41 that is the quicker of the two cars by, well, almost 1.5 seconds per lap on the last lap.
So there you've got the battle nose to tail going on as Matt George goes up the inside to get past the BMW of Benze Guibert, and he goes back up into 8th place. They've been trading places, those two, but that was a good effort. Through he goes up on the inside line now. So we have the race on lap number 19, just under 16 minutes to go, and Matt George, a very quick young Brit, taking the Aston Martin over from James Holder. James out the big round car, gaining ground as Thomas Drouet now in the background in the Mercedes tries to join that party as well.
There's a good pass by Matt George to get the Aston up through. So he's got the BMW between himself. The 88 Mercedes is always going to be a threat wherever you are. And Thomas Drouet again running on the last lap, not particularly quick, whereas the last lap for Matt George was the best part of again 1.6 seconds quicker. So the pace the Aston Martin displayed, and look again, 88 trying to get past the BMW, dives on the inside into turn 14, makes the pass stick. Now let's see what the Aston Martin has got in its tank. Can it retain its just newly positioned 7th position from the newly 8th position of Thomas Drouet?
So as the car's heading to turn 14 once again. 88 it is that has the advantage. Thomas Drouet through ahead of this equally fading BMW. Enzo Guibert, don't forget, in theory is the quicker of the two drivers in that car, and yet he's losing places as the stint goes on.
All I can imagine when the BMW looks to try and come back, and the 88 Mercedes has got straight line performance where it maybe losing is on the traction. So is it just simply side by side, and the Mercedes really having to come off the brakes and let the car roll into turn one to make sure that the BMW didn't get the nose ahead to pull in and cut off. Look at the speed, look at the BMW speed, and there's nothing wrong with the grip off turn 1, 2 or 3 because it's up alongside the 88 and in fact nosing ahead.
So Guibert goes back ahead of Drouet, retakes 8th position. This is what motor racing should be. Passes can be exchanged, not just the car goes ahead and stays there. The circuit and the nature of these cars and GT4 as a concept promoting lots of overtaking around this circuit, so we've had a very eventful race and it's not done yet. 14 minutes to go. Look at Drouet almost pushing the BMW down the hill up the inside into turn 8. Can he go through? He should do. He's got the tighter line, he's got the place.
Yes, I think what I would say is less aero, more overtaking.
Yeah, indeed.
And that's what we've seen. I mean, these two cars have now been battling on this lap. Pass at least once on the lap, if not probably more than once before they get to the completion of the lap.
Drouet gets away by length coming out of the corner. The BMW tries to fight back, and here's the move again from on board.
Watch and see. 88 trying to sneak. And this is a brave move because it's very difficult in this part of the track. Look at the amount of movement on the steering wheel. It forces the BMW to take the racing line, and then once it's done so, dives down the inside, gets rail estate, gets track position, uses the exit of the corner to consolidate that overtake, and that was well thought out by Drouet to make that pass and make it stick. Now he's got a little bit more clear air, trying to break the BMW where it was quick on a straight on the last lap and regained that position virtually as a consequence of being quick on the straight, but now Drouet's got enough of a clear air between himself and the BMW, and I don't think there will be any return for BMW to get back into that 7th position.
The leading gap's coming down as well by tenths, as you see Drouet turning out of turn 14 with 12.5 minutes on the clock. Wide goes Drouet there, coming out of turn 1, all sideways. Number 42, this is Greg Gilbert, who is in 4th place now.
Yeah, but the sister car is going way, way quicker, almost 2.7 seconds quicker on the last lap. So the Saint-Aloc Steve Palette is now within 7.3 seconds, and you can almost see the car just coming into view behind that Mercedes. So the great drive by Palette on the 41 to manage to claw back over 15 seconds in this stint.
And don't forget, this is the car that leads in Pro-Am. In fact, it's a 1-2 for the Saint-Aloc Junior team in Pro-Am, with Gilbert and Palette Audi's first and second in Pro-Am. Silver Cup being led, of course, by Muller Madsen and Dodger as the overall leaders, and then the AM class, Nicky Leutwiler and Jan Kasperlik in the Porsche Cayman in 10th place overall. So there's the overall situation. Silver Cup cars, both Audi ahead of Alpine, so even with the extra weight added to this car and the weight taken out of the McLaren, it is still the dominant car in the race now. Nikolai Muller-Madsen turns through 4.3 seconds to the good, and he's actually got away a little bit in the first sector.
Yeah, the Audi has looked, I mean, I have to say, the lead Audi has looked the best of the Audis all through this race. It's always managed to have that little bit more balance and grip, and has looked after its tires particularly well as they're pursuing Alpine. 4.3 seconds, maybe that's the best we're going to see with 11 minutes on the clock. The big mover right now is still in 5th place, that's the 41 Saint-Aloc Junior Team Audi of Stephen Palette, 7.3 seconds behind. Wait to see what he will be when he comes across the line to complete his 20 laps.
And 11 minutes to go, so the clock's ticking on down. I'm sure everybody is trying as hard as, but you do wonder with it being a qualifying race whether 1 or 2 are just settling because they want to get through without dramas. The bonnet's still up, for example, on the 8 BMW with its problems, the Ricardo Van der Ende car, so that's completely back on the grid again anyway for qualifying race 2 and potentially the final, if it gets into the final, because they've got a lot of work to do to try and get to the bottom of the problems yet again. We made the point early on, John, about the fact that there's a lot of mileage crammed into 2 days. That's great if the car's going well. If you've got a problem, that's really bad news.
Yeah, I mean, there is the time, I mean, especially if you've got a mechanical problem, a deep mechanical problem, or you've got maybe accident damage to get the car turned around, get it ready. But there is Stephen Palette catching up to the back of Andy Merrick and the Bullet Racing Mercedes. It's out of position down in 18th position. Andy Merrick not having a great run. That car, of course, got penalised for the contact earlier in the race with the Alpine.
coming up towards turn 14 at the moment. The leading gap, 3.9 seconds. So last time quicker was Pierre-Alexandre Jean, and the leader being warned about track limit abuse now. So Nikolai Muller-Madsen's driving standards are being looked at. We're into the final 10 minutes of the race as number 41 charges along. This is Stephen Palette going nicely.
Yeah, I mean, he's done an outstanding job just to claw back a little last time, and by a margin he is now the quickest of the Audis on the racetrack. The lead Audi, Nikolai Muller-Madsen, did 15.9 as against 15.0 for this 5th place. Little KTM.
That's another car, Reinhard Koffer at the wheel in this second stint, that has made up a lot of ground. It's always been there or thereabouts, but in this second stint where things have perhaps stabilised a little bit more, Koffer has done a good job, the Austrian, of getting himself up into the top 6. He is 8 seconds back from Stephen Palette, so he's not going to catch, but top 6, not bad.
No, he's not going to catch Stephen Palette because Palette's pulling away significantly, but nevertheless still very, very good times. I mean, half a second is the difference between on the last lap between the 41 ID and the little KTM.
There's Matt George, who is currently running in 7th place. He's another of the Pro-Am drivers, accelerating up through turn 11 now, back onto the power. This is the car that he's taken over from James Holder, who he's been doing a lot of driver coaching with and finding more pace within the bronze driver. 88 behind Thomas Drouet, and then it's Enzo Guibert and Nicky Leutwiler around out the top 10. Drouet here on the limit. He's only been racing in cars for a couple of seasons. French Formula 4 2 years ago. Sorry, last year I should say, and then this season, French GT4. 10th in Pro-Am for ACA ASP, so Thomas Drouet, another young gun turning towards GT racing as a career. 3.6 seconds the lead gap. It is down again, but I just think now, John, although the Alpine is closing, Pierre-Alexandre Jean may run out of time.
I think the clock's counting down. We've just got just under 8 minutes remaining. A little bit of motor racing coming down the Cayman, defending down into turn 14. The Ginetta.
Class lead battle, incidentally, Nicky Leutwiler versus Johan Rosen. So the very experienced Nicky Leutwiler, 58 years of age, comes over the timing line. That's the car that Jan Kasperlik was doing good things with at the start of the race. And Nicky Leutwiler, who's been a regular winner in his McLaren in the European Championship this year, keeping Johan Rosen at bay, the Swede, former carb racer. And Leutwiler out of turn 1, staying ahead of the Ginetta for the moment, but 7 more minutes to go in this AM category lead battle. The Primus Racing Ginetta. Ginetta Racing, pretty popular in Sweden. A little bit of debris there, flies onto the road just up ahead of Nicky Leutwiler, who brakes now for turn 4, keeping that Ginetta at bay for the moment.
And that little bit of tape just getting caught on part of the air intake on the front of the Ginetta. You don't need any additional cooling implements or hazards. Not going to be a big problem. It's only a small bit of tape, but nevertheless, you know, it's inevitable that if you're going to run over it, it's going to be attached somewhere to the car. And well, I think the pace of the Ginetta vis-a-vis the pace of the Porsche, you can see under braking just how much this is not following that particular battle.
Now this is the Brett Strom BMW, and he's up past the Maserati, so he's gone by in now to 12th place. This is behind that battle we were looking at, but Brett Strom goes ahead now of Piotr Kodzum, and then behind the pair of them is another of the BMWs battling along, which is the 3Y technology car of Dan Wells, the British driver based in Hong Kong these days. Oh, well, way sideways.
And loads of rubber.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, just at this point in the race is probably not relevant because only 6 minutes remaining, but you can just see how easy it is to break traction at this phase and just lay down a load of more rubber, and that's just going to take a little bit less out of the pace of the car.
So there is the battle on for our honours. Leutwiler still ahead of Rosen as they come into turn 13, 6 minutes to go. Lead gap has gone up a fraction, incidentally, this time, so Nikolai Muller-Madsen looking a little bit more secure up front. Here comes Nicky Leutwiler. He's raced in Germany, raced in the States for a time in sports cars before even having a go in Australia, so he's done a lot of mileage in his long career. Johan Rosen catching up to him as they break now into the right-hander of turn number 13, heading up towards the timing line again.
Yeah, the big race is going to take place for 4th and 5th positions because the two standalone Audis are now within a second of one another, and that's Stephen Palette, who's been consistently running in the 2-minute 15s, sometimes into the 2:14s, against Gregory Gilbert, who's been consistently in the high 16s, 2-minute 17s. So I wonder, will that be a pass, or will the team just say, hold position, points been made, but there's no point battling each other, where the danger would be you could do damage to one or the other if you get a bit aggressive.
does Johan Rosen do here in terms of the Cup? Does he force the issue, or does he just sit there and gets a good finish ready for qualifying race 2 in the main race? Leutwiler is really having to go defensive. The Ginetta now looking the quicker of the two as they break and turn out then of turn 4. Back onto the power now as they wriggle their way through the infield. Side by side, the Ginetta going to go ahead, is it? Yes, it'll have the inside line now, and through goes Johan Rosen at turn 6. Good move, that.
Yeah, I mean, then if it was coming off turn 4, just that little bit better drive, the car, as I say, the Ginetta, unlike the Porsche, which is a volume production manufacturer car, Ginetta, boutique manufacturer, but a very, very good race car now, a mid-engine, front-engine GT car against a mid-engine, rear-engine, high-volume production Porsche.
Never heard a Ginetta described as a boutique brand before, but I like it.
Absolutely, of course it is.
Do they have boutiques in Garforth? Up towards turn 11 comes then the new AM leader. This was the move, Johan Rosen.
Yeah, a good pass, and we saw that all in live, and there we see it in replay, and just well thought out, executed. It's making passes is not actually always difficult. Sometimes it can be, but not always. But it's about thinking and using your strengths and looking to see where your opposition maybe is on the slightly more weak side.
Also, I did pose the question, is Johan Rosen going to force the issue and try and get the lead? Well, what about the defence? Did Nicky Leutwiler think, look, he's a bit quicker, I'll let him go now, we've got 2 more races to come. Lead gap, 3.4 seconds. Pierre-Alexandre Jean fractionally closer, but he's not going to get there in time with 3 minutes to go.
No, but what has happened is Stephen Panetta's got ahead of his teammate Gregory Gilbert. That was inevitable. We thought maybe the team might say just hold station, so a great drive from the 41 Santa Lock team, but of course a further 12 seconds behind getting onto the podium.
And there is the second place car. That's the Alpine of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. And yes, Stephen Paletta, the new Pro-Am class leader. There's first and second. Nikolai Müller-Madsen still with enough in hand in the first sector as well. He's a little bit quicker than the Alpine. Makes you wonder what it could have done had it started up in front of the grid, but from the back to take second. It's been a mighty effort by Pierre Zineda, who started, and Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who's taken the car over. People, even after free practice, were saying, oh, the Alpine's got a good balance of performance. Well, it may have, but it's a very good, purposeful car with 2 very good drivers.
Well, I've always enjoyed watching a David versus a Goliath. So this is the Alpine, and whether it's got a good BOP or not, it's great to see a brand that, again, is a bit like the Ginetta. It's a small manufacturing. Hopefully they'll see many more of these Alpines on racetrack.
Because it's proved to be quick in the French Championship, it's proved to be quick winning races in the European, for example, as well. And won't be long, I suspect, before we see more of them. As there, the Maserati of Piotr Chodzen is under attack. Up the inside line goes Dan Wells, and the quick brick goes through.
Yeah, a little puff of smoke from the Maserati brakes, but no real defence, just allowed the BMW to take the position and just try to follow through as cleanly and closely as possible.
Greg Gilbert and Nicky Leutwiler are on their last warning about track limits at turn 7. So Alain Adon, the race director, is getting a bit fed up with the reports coming back about the cars going off the road. These GT4 cars move around a little bit more than GT3. I don't think we've had any track limit warnings in GT3 for the FIA GT Nations Cup, but we've had quite a few in GT4. And Dan Wells, very quick British driver, much underrated, rather forgotten about really, because he's been away in China and Hong Kong flying in trains successfully for a number of seasons now. He dropped off the UK radar, but he's as quick as ever, and still a very, very talented driver. There is Nikolai Müller-Madsen, who leads, and we're on the last lap now.
And the gap looked to be slightly less than it was in the previous lap, but maybe that's just the illusion looking down from 4 as the cars approach up to that corner. So Nikolai Müller-Madsen, he's had a pretty easy run the minute he got behind the wheel, and there's been this challenge coming from the 36 Alpine that's been, for me, one of the focuses and highlights of the race, just to see how this it's almost, it looks like one of those sort of mini kind of cars that you saw made in the 50s. It's just so much smaller than the opposition, but it's small and light and nimble. Still the battle going on between the Maserati and the BMW, coming out of 13 into 14.
They go down for a while. Piotr Chodzen back up on the inside line against Dan Wells. The 3-wide technology. BMW fends him off. A little bit of a wobble under braking as they come into turn 14. They will get one more lap out of this. The leaders are heading to the checkered flag though. And now the Maserati tries to get the place back, but the BMW's got enough grunt in a straight line to stay ahead.
Yeah, well, that's partly due to the balance of performance, because the Maserati, I suspect, in total horsepower terms, could produce more than the BMW does. But the BMW would be the lighter of the 2 cars. The Maserati is an older design than the BMW. So all these qualities and values all get mixed together in a BOP.
So the checkered flag, as I say, will be ready this time. And Nikolai Müller-Madsen is being caught a little bit, but I think this is him just looking after the gap. He's not stressing anything too much, and so as they come down towards now the right-hander at turn 14, qualifying race 1 is going to be won by the Phoenix Racing Audi. It's a bit larger than it was in qualifying. It's had extra weight added overnight, but the result is going to be a race win for Nikolai Müller-Madsen and Milan Doncha up towards the timing line and to the checkered flag. The Audi wins qualifying race 1 in the GT4 International Cup. Second across the line is Pierre-Alexandre Jean. The gap at the flag, 2.791 seconds. Third is going to go the way of Matt Nicol-Jones and Finlay Hutchison in the McLaren. Good solid run that, coming over the line. And fourth to win Pro-Am should be Stephen Palette. There he is in the Audi, the car that he shares with Michael Blanchimont. So over the line to take fourth and a class win. Fifth will be Greg Gilbert, sharing with Fabien Machel. And then for sixth place, it should be, there it is in the background, at the KTM, Reinhard Koffler and Konstantin Schürrle finishing in sixth place. Seventh is the Aston Martin. Matt George goes through, and the car that he shares with James Holder. Eighth here, Thomas Drouet and Jérôme Policon. For ninth, it'll be the Enzo Guibert and Gilles Vannelet, BMW, which heads towards the line. That's going to be for Pro-Am. And then the top 10, here it is, a change back for the lead of the AM Cup because Nicky Leutwiler has gone back ahead in the Porsche coming into turn 14. So Leutwiler is going to win the AM Cup in the Porsche coming up to turn 9. Nicky Leutwiler and Jan Kasperlik then take 10th overall and win the AM Cup ahead of Johan Rosen and Peter Larson. Porsche ahead of Ginetta by 0.282 of a second. Here for 12th is Brett Strom and Darren Jorgensen in the BMW that goes over the line. And the Americans come home, as I say, 12th overall again in the AM Cup. They'll be ahead of the Dan Wells BMW that he shares with Philippe Kadori, the Hong Kong enthusiast, and the Hudsons, Anthony and Piotr, next in 14th in the Maserati. And then still they come because this is Eric Behrens who will bring the car started by Mats and Dikstrand over the line, and that's going to be 15th place with Luke and Lisette Brahms set for 16th. This was the move that gave Nicky Leutwiler the AM Cup lead, so never mind taking it easy and preserving the car for race 2. There was a gap, there was a dive, and there was the class win on the last corner.
I don't know whether the Ginetta did something wrong coming through turn 13 to give the Porsche the run, but certainly you could see that Nicky Leutwiler had more pace coming down into turn 14, and Ginetta was just a sitting duck.
Well, Nikolai Müller-Madsen and Milan Doncha may have lost ground at the start, but they certainly fought back very nicely and took the win. 2.791 seconds ahead of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Pierre Sonsinena, mega job that from the Alpine drivers up from the rear of the grid. Matt Nicol-Jones and Finlay Hutchison taking third. Disappointment for the other Alpine, David Touchemont, a retirement early on. Ethan Simeoni out with the drivetrain problem, and also the BMW Team France by Ecris BMW, Ricardo van der Ende bringing that into the pit lane, having the car enjoyed a really good first stint with Julien Piguet and a wheel. So 2 more races for the GT4 International Cup. We've got qualifying race 2, we've got the main race coming up at the end of the afternoon, but everybody has now taken the flag. The lights turned to red on the gantry there, you can see, which says that the circuit is now closed. Everybody has completed the race, and the cars which are based in the Oasis pits, the other pit lane, and the pit garages there, will shortly make their way to the presentation area. Hopefully we can hear from the winning drivers. The Bahrain International Circuit welcoming GT racing back for the first time in a long while. SRO had the second ever meeting here back in 2004 and making a welcome return. Let's look at the best bits of the first race then for the GT4 International Cup. Cars accelerating away with, from the outside of the front row, Fabien Machel taking the early lead, an early contact, turning David Touchemont around. Stephen Patrick, the aggressor, for which he got a drive-through penalty. Battles lower down the order as Milan Doncha tried to fight back against Finlay Hutchison. Up front in the opening stint, Fabien Machel was the leader. Pierre Sonsinena's Alpine was making good progress, and so too Jérôme Policon. He was in the thick of battles as the leading trio got themselves together. Up into second came Doncha. He went for the race lead as David Touchemont had a big drama under braking at turn 14. That was early in the race. He was lucky not to get collected, and the car retired to the pit lane. Milan Doncha through eventually into the race lead. Battle on for second spot. Battles lower down as well. Jan Kasperlik just fending off Audi and Mercedes that got together. as we had Michel Blancpain coming under attack and then shedding bits into the face of a rather grumpy Jerome Policon. And while he was busy attacking, he was then mugged by the KTM of Konstantin Schürl. Number 5, the race leading car of Milan Doncia, as an earlier pit stop for 42. Relieved Fabio Michel and put Greg Gilbert into the car. Konstantin Schürl handing over the KTM to Reinhard Koffler, and Milan Doncia to give way to Nikolai Moller-Madsen. The BMW of Julien Piguet had done a really good job up the back of the grid. Ricardo van der Ende got on board in 3rd place, but then mechanical problems brought it into the pit lane after only a couple of laps. The Americans of Brett Strom, Darren Jorgensen going nicely in the AM category, as Thomas Drouet's Mercedes tried to gain ground as the second stint unwound. Through on the inside of the McLaren for 2nd place went Pierre-Alexandre Jean ahead of Matt Nicol-Jones. Matt tried to fight back, but eventually that gap grew. The lead gap would come down as Drouet made a move up on the inside of Enzo Guibert and tried to go through, and he did go through, working his way up into 8th place by flag fall. The AM Cup had a great battle going on as well. Johan Rosen versus Nicky Leutwiler, as through to score the win. Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Milan Doncia from Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Pierre Sancinena, and 3rd, Matt Nicol-Jones and Finlay Hutchinson. Class wins to Moller-Madsen and Doncia. Also Stephen Palette and his co-driver Michel Blancpain, they went Pro-Am, and the AM category won by Nicky Leutwiler and Jan Kasperlik in the Porsche. So that is race 1 completed. Phoenix Racing, the victorious team here in Bahrain. The drivers now have an opportunity to assess data, to do whatever is needed to the cars before qualifying race 2, and that race coming up to start at 2:45 local time. It is now 6 minutes past 11 local time here in Bahrain. So a win for Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Milan Doncia. Join us later on to see the continuing story of GT4 this weekend. But for now, from John Watson and David Anderson, it's goodbye.